Evening all YouTube, this is ACDodd. I just thought I'd have a little bit of an evening of Q&A. So if anybody's out there and you want to come in and have a chat, then please do so, and I'll perhaps answer some questions as best I can. So over to you guys. I'm going to have a beer. So, if you've got any projects that you want to talk about, you want to ask any technical information regarding engines, gearboxes, tuning, then this is the place to come and ask those questions. I'll do what I can. I'll answer what I can, and let's have some fun in the meantime. So, over to you. So I see we've got 7 people in. So anybody want to ask any questions? I've had a busy week or so. For some reason, I've been doing an awful lot of advanced curves this week. So recurving distributors, which is taking some time, I must admit. My health's not been too wonderful this week. Been suffering with a bit of tiredness, but that's to do with the fact I'm a bit too fat. So anyway, moving on. I've also I've got a lot of flywheels on the go at the moment. As a lot of people know, I do a lot of flywheel machining for various people, including companies. So we've got a lot on for Thomas Classic and Modern. What else we got going? Got a couple of flywheels for some private people. I've just done a bunch for Cole over at Classic Mini DIY via Elliot. That was the RTS clutches. So yeah, I'm going to sit here for as long as it takes, or a little while, certainly until I get bored. If there's any questions, then please post them up on the screen, and I'll do the best I can to answer them. I can't talk all the time because I'll get bored, and so will you. So let's get some technical questions on the go. First question there, Philip Bailey. What's my view on supercharging? That's actually a really good question. So it depends on which way you do it. Personally, I don't like any of the draw-through setups. So a blow-through setup's the way to do supercharging. Unfortunately, that's one of the most difficult ways to do it in terms of packaging for a Mini. But if you can, certainly if you can package it right, then that's the way to do it, to get the car to run properly and run properly at pot throttle and drive nicely and smooth all the way up the rev range. Tony Harmer 59. Where did you get your passion for working on classic Mini engines? Oh, that's a good one. So I grew up with my father, and he was into Minis, and he did basically Mini servicing and crash repairs, gearbox rebuilds, engine rebuilds, all that sort of stuff. So I basically picked up my passion for working on those cars at that point, you know, while I was growing up. But he didn't do any modified stuff. So obviously when I got you know, to be able to drive. I realised that they were quite slow, so I needed a faster car. So I couldn't afford to go and pay for somebody to tune my car. So being an apprentice engineer, I took it on my own volition to go and look into how I could do it myself. So I was kind of self-taught. Read books, you know, Vizard, all the other books that are out there on A-series engines. And effectively, I got lucky. I think the most important thing to understand about if you have a passion for something is you need to practice it, and more importantly, if you want to be good at something, you need to understand how everything works, because you can't make anything work unless you actually understand how it functions in the first place. And certainly if you want to improve it, you definitely need to understand how it works. Hopefully that answers your question, Tony. Okay, so any more questions? All right, apologies for not saying this right. Amit Talad, I think is the question there. Best way to get more power from a standard 998 engine? Well, it depends on your budget really, but if it's a standard engine and you don't want to touch it, the best thing to do is to give it a damn good tune-up. So if it's standard with all the standard factory manifolding and carburetor on that, that engine will respond very well to a one of my tune-ups with a custom needle and a custom advance curve. That's the best way to get more power out of it, and it's the first stage. After that, you can fit on a stage 1 kit. You'll get a little bit more power, but typically at the top end of the rev range. And then after that, it's the usual, you know, bolt-ons, cylinder head, etc., camshaft. And then every stage, if you're doing it separately, you'll need to tune that engine once you do a modification to get the best out of it. Hopefully that helps, that answers your question. Okay, question from 427-2005. Hi, Adrian. Are you thinking of offering in-house tuning as well as the mobile kind? As a short answer to that is no, because I don't have any premises. So effectively, that's why I do mobile, so I can go all over the country. However, if people want to do that sort of thing, then it's quite easy for companies or businesses to get me down for the day to work in their premises and get all the cars to turn up at one place. That works well and keeps the price down. Okay, Mario Elves. Hello, Adrian. Hi, Mario. Okay, Tony Harmer, 59. How do you rate using double spring set up on the valves? I'm not quite sure what you mean by that question. How do I rate them? Are you talking about rate them as in what do I think of them, or rate them as in the spring rate? When does the new season of mobile tuning start? Yeah, when the weather's warmer, you're absolutely right. So in reality, I actually got my first tuning jobs from February. Okay, so there will be a few happening in February, only when the weather's sensible, of course. But it really picks up from the end of February. So the last 2 weeks in February, I'll start in earnest again, and then we're flat out in March already. So yeah. Watch this space. There'll be more videos coming this year. Okay, Tony Armour is referring to the valve springs. How do I rate them? Okay, in terms of double valve springs, the biggest problem people do is fit springs that are far too heavy. Okay, so in just about every road application, and that is up to 7,000 RPM. You only need the CAEA 525 valve springs. However, they do need to be shimmed when fitted. So it's no good just taking valve springs out of a packet and putting them on. You're going to have problems, all right? So, yeah, the biggest problem with those is misunderstanding and people not understanding what they need to do to fit them. You don't take valve springs out of a packet and just fit them. They need to be shimmed correctly. Uh, 427 2005. Any near Essex? No. The reason why there's none near Essex is because it's expensive for me to go there. It's all day for me to go just for one car. So if you want me to go to Essex, you need to arrange to have a number of people to share the cost. Okay, so very happy to go to Essex. I did Essex Mini Club last year, and we did a whole weekend, and we did 14 cars over 2 days. So if you want to do that and get the price down, that's the way to do it. I see we've got 17 people on the chat now. Any more questions? Anything you want me to talk about? This is the first time I've done this, by the way. You know, this is new to me as well, doing this live chat. So I just thought I'd give it a go this evening. Bit of a spur of the moment thing. So apologies if it comes over unpolished. It's not meant to be polished. It's just meant to be raw. Okay. So I make no, apologies for that. Okay, we've got some more questions coming in. Yeah, I've been asked there again if I have any tuning days coming up. No, I've got no tuning days coming up imminently. There are some booked for later in the year. I've got one in Scotland, for example, that's trying to be arranged at the moment. Obviously, most people, if you want to get me at an event, probably the best one is the Riviera run down in Cornwall. I will most definitely be there this year. Okay, 427 2005. I've just purchased a Mini 1000 with an A+ engine. What is the easiest way to improve performance without going mad? Okay. Well, let's just need to make some assumptions. If the engine's good, you know, I don't know what your budget is, but the best thing you can do with that engine to start with is a basic tune-up. So one of my tune-ups, whereas it has a custom needle and probably a modified advance curve, and leave the engine standard. Once you get the engine running properly after that, that is assuming the engine's right and the valves are all sealed and all the rest of it, then you can decide what you want to do after that. After that, it's a stage 1 kit. That won't add a massive amount of power on top of the initial tune that I will do. Typically, when I tune them up on an A+ engine, you get about 46 horsepower, and then fitting a stage 1 kit, you get another 2, maybe 3 horsepower at the very end, and that's at the top end. So in reality, kind of what I do to a standard one is almost as good as a stage 1 and a rolling road tune. So you know, after that, what you want to do is think about a cylinder head and a mild cam, really. But if you really want to put your arse in the seat, you need to take the engine out and make it bigger or fit a bigger one. Tony Harmer 59, not sure my engine is unleaded. Is there an easy way to check? There is if you've got the cylinder head off. There's no way to check without the cylinder head off. Unless you've got access to a endoscope that you can put in and then look to see if there's a valve seat insert on the exhaust. And if it's a factory cylinder head that's unleaded, it'll also have an insert on the inlet as well, only on the 998s. If it's a 1275, it'll have a little ring around the exhaust valve, but it's not easy to see. So the usual case of cause of events is you have to take the cylinder head off and you have to clean off all the carbon around the seat to be able to actually see that. Okay, so it's not easy to see unless the head's off. The good news is you should be taking the head off your mini engine anyway, just so the valves can be reseated, because they get cooked and pitted. Yeah, that will all be found out at the time of doing a valve job. It is also worth mentioning, though, Tony, that just because it has, it depends on the age, but just because it has an insert in it doesn't mean it's unleaded. It could have been if it's an old engine, it could have been repaired in the 70s with just a cast iron insert. That would be rare, but I have seen it. So the cast iron insert is quite soft, so it won't stand the rigours of unleaded fuel. Adam Colby, I have a warm 1380 A+. Can they be sleeved reliably? Okay. It depends what process you use. I've spoken to Keith Carver about this, and he uses a process where his liners are glued in. Now, he assures me that block is stronger than it was when it was original, so you can run kind of whatever power you want. So the answer to that question is, depending on the process you use to re-sleeve it, he's telling me, Keith, that is possible. The way I do them is traditional way, and I push them in. So when I push them in, that doesn't give the block the same strength as it would be if they're just lightly pressed in and glued, because there's a lot more strain on the block to hold those liners in. So I've done that. I've done it my way for a number of engines, and I have had one failure, and that was due to the owner massively overheating the engine, and it dropped a liner. So it cracked the rest of the block, and the liner fell down. So the most important thing to understand there is, if you use a traditional method to hold them in, which is friction, it works, but it makes the engine a bit more fragile than it would be if it had a different arrangement. So in this case, I don't use the process that Keith Carver does, but if you go to Keith, I'm sure he can get a block done for you. Hope that helps answer your question there, Adam. Just one more point, actually, while I'm thinking about that sleeving. Clearly, it depends also on how thick the walls are on your particular block. So when I do it, I sonic test the wall thicknesses. If it's too thin, then you're asking for trouble, okay? So a lot of blocks are about 330, 350 thou thick, which is what you want. If they're 250, 275, then you're going to start to have problems. Dan Hardy, evening AC. I'm partway through rebuilding my 1275 A Plus this year, and it will need boring out to 1310. What's the best dizzy, coil, and spark plug setup to use? Okay. Okay, right. So you're having a 40 thou rebore to 1310, which is fine. Best dizzy. Okay. So if you just want a conventional dizzy with springs in it, then you can use. I mean, I like the Power Spark product, so use any dizzy. You've got an A+, so use any dizzy that can fire a 0.8 ohm coil. So a high power coil. You can run 35 thou plug gaps, and so that will be a 59D original Lucas, or it will be a Power Spark with a beg your pardon, a 65D original Lucas, or a Power Spark 59D with a high power module. Spark plug setup, basically NGK BP series. If you don't like changing your plugs, you can put some iridiums in it. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but you're going to go from what, £11 a set to sort of £70 a set. So, you know, it's up to you what you want to spend. Connor the King, do you use dry ice? What, for installing liners? No. Hamid's lad there, what would the ideal advance curve be for a standard 998 A plus engine? If you're talking about the high compression one, then I have a special curve for that which I call the 998 A plus curve, and effectively it runs at full advances at works out to be at 30 degrees at 4,500 RPM, and you want 20 degrees at 2,500 RPM, and then about 10 degrees static. Okay, S. Fraser, we were talking the other night, AC, thanks. Yeah, okay, in terms of Verto clutch and flywheel for my 1275. Is buying a mini spares unit good enough to fit, or do I need to do anything to it in terms of balancing? Okay, that's a good question. Never buy anything without balancing it before you put it on. Doesn't matter who it's from. Okay, and that includes setting up the horn height and all the rest of it. No problem, Dan. Adam Colby there, perfect. I actually take my stuff to Park Engineering, which I believe Keith is just around the corner. Yeah, no problem. Just regards linering, I'm going to be doing a lot of linering, I think, in the future. Well, I say a lot. I'm going to be doing more linering of blocks for Thomas Classic and Modern. So you know, watch if you watch YouTube. I'm sure there'll be a video or two on that in the future. Louis, greetings from Texas. Nice one. What do you think about Colour Tune tool? Thanks. Have a great weekend. Colour Tune, I haven't used one for 30 years. The Colour Tune just gives you a colour of the basic combustion that's going on inside the cylinder. Yes, that kind of relates to the fueling, but the problem is you can't understand what's going on right across the rev range and at all loads, which is what you need to do when you're tuning an engine. So the Colour Tune compared to a wideband gauge is not much use. Hopefully, Louis, that helped you there, but it might not be what you wanted to hear. No problem, S. Fraser. $31 in the chat now. Getting a few people in. Anybody else want to ask any questions? Want to find out anything? So just while I'm waiting for more questions there, the work I've got coming up in the future, I've got more flywheels to do. I've also got more, obviously got tuning coming on board, but I've got some engine work coming in as well. So some engine machining, rebores, new cam bearings, that kind of stuff, more primary gears, etc. So hopefully we'll make a video or two about the engine machining as well, because I'm sure people will like that. Tony Armour, what's this night's choice of beer? Old Speckled Hen. My favourite. Well, apart from that, the products that are produced at Dark Revolution anyway, which is the The brewery's just over the road. Okay, is there much advantage in moving from a 65D to a Power Spark unit? The answer to that is if your 65D is working perfectly, no. If it's worn out, then obviously moving to a new Power Spark unit is going to be a benefit, all right, if the shaft bearings are gone and all the rest of it. But there's no benefit if it's working correctly. Mark 1 leg, will you attend Bewley this year? No. S. Fraser, what air filter airbox would you recommend? HI 44 on a 1275. Is that a modified 1275 or a completely standard one with 52 horsepower? 427 2005. More engineering videos, please. They are great. Okay, yeah, there's a reason why there hasn't been any, and that's because the work I'm doing is the same as what I've already made videos on. So I can only make videos on work that's new, okay? Chuck Heiser, what if the distributor drive gear is not properly lined up? Well, actually, doesn't matter where the distributor drive gear is, doesn't matter what orientation the distributor's in. As long as the firing order's there, 1, 3, 4, 2, and it's timed up correctly, doesn't matter. However, there is an optimum place for that to be, just so everything's in the right place, which is what's given in your manual. Bodgewell, evening AC. What are your thoughts on the CSI Dizzies with the curve presets? No problem with the CSI Dizzies. They're just another product to achieve the same thing. Oh, questions coming in thick and fast now. Okay. James Barkham. All right, James, how's it going? Okay. Are you doing Cornwall this year? Yes. S. Fraser, Guinness here in Stafford, Bingley tomorrow. Yeah, well, enjoy yourself at Stafford. I won't be there because I'll be out here in my workshop trying to catch up. Phil Bailey, what would the reason 1 and 4 pistons sit higher than 3 and 4 or vice versa? Tolerances. So like they come out of the factory, you know, can be 15th hour difference. So the very fact they are like that is normal. So what you need to do is to adjust that by swapping the parts around to even them up. You might even find checking the stroke length on the crank varies. So you could have that zeroed when you have it ground, but it adds considerably to the cost of your crank grind. Dan Hardy, my A plus 1310, what needle is a good start to get things running well enough prior to a tune-up? Well, that's always a good one. If I was you, I'll be fitting a wideband gauge on that, and I'll be fitting a probably a BFY or a BDL needle with probably a BFY needle with a depends on what cylinder head and cam you've got going in, but it could be a red or it most likely be a yellow spring. Obviously, if you rev the engine there when you wideband and it's going too rich, you need to change the needle for a leaner one. Always have the needle on the lean side for running in. S. Fraser, slightly modified, new cam as discussed, board plus 40. Sorry, I forgot there what you were referring to. Ah, right, okay, the airbox. Okay, so if it's slightly modified head, you know, you're going to be over the 80 horsepower mark. You're going to struggle with a standard plastic type airbox. So if I was you, I would be having like a nice K&M filter or a pipe across ITG or something like that, nice and deep, and preferably with a stub stack of some description on the back of the carb. Okay, Nick Chandler. I have an MPI Mini and I know they're limited to power with ECU. What's the best thing to do? Just a modified head? Are roller rockers any good? Heard mixed reviews, or is it a cam better the way to go? Okay, so in my experience, they run good up to about 81, 82 horsepower. So this is what I would do. Avoid 1.5 rockers. I know that takes a lot of top end power out. But the point is, it will eventually eat through your camshaft lobes and followers. So keep the rockers, I'd say, to 1.3. Target your power about sort of 78 horsepower, and then with a modified head, and then the car will drive reasonably well, and it should run quite nicely. Okay, Mario Alves, do you use a different advance curve between 998A and A plus? What do you think about the new VAT canister for the new petrol in use, rather than the old canister? Okay, so I use the modern canisters available from Mini Spares, and they work well. I do use a different advance curve depending on the compression in the cam fitted. So if it's a 998 A plus with a high compression 10.3 to 1 engine with a standard cam, then I have to slow the advance curve down a bit. I did mention it earlier. It's basically 4,500 RPM at 30 degrees advance, and 2,500 RPM at 20 degrees advance and 10 degrees stack. It's the same advance curve, I'll just bring it in 500 RPM lower for the lower compression engine. Jeff Birch, low oil pressure on idle, stable on 20 with different pressure gauge. Any concern? I always love the oil pressure one. Factory quoted oil pressure for idle on a hot engine is 15 pounds per square inch. If you've got 20, it's all good. Okay, Dan Hardy, Red Spring Mini Spares Evo Cam. Yeah, I'll probably be right on the... You might be finding that you need a yellow spring on that one. No problem, S. Fraser. And Mario as well. No problem. Chuck Heiser, should I stick with a 45 D4 Dizzy on a 1275S engine or a better one? Okay, so are you using points? Chuck, are you using points or are you using electronic? So what type of ignition are you using? Okay, so just to answer Chuck there, electronic. The only thing I'd say is you don't need to change your Dizzy if you've got a 45 D4, but just make sure you're using an electronic system with variable dwell, and you can fire a 0.8 ohm coil and run big spark plug gaps. That's the way to get that to run well. Not all modules on the electronic ignition system will run the 0.8 ohm coils. Okay, so what do I... sorry, 427 2005. What do I think of double spring Verto clutches? Well, I've just done a few here, and they work well, okay? But the most important thing to understand is they do increase the side loading on the crankshaft. So it's quite important that they need to be set up right, or you'll end up wiping the thrust washers. Adam Colby, we're working on a compression ratio. Do you work on effective CR? I do, depending on the application, and if I don't know what the cam is, then I'll kind of work it out. But in reality, I stick to static on the stuff that I know, because I've already worked it out. So, for example, my own camshafts, I know what to use, without doing that. But if I was using a new camshaft, I'd go through the process of working that out and having a look and seeing what was best. Force fueling a 1330, then 1.5 rockers. Okay, so I would immediately go for red springs and a pair of, say red springs, Actually, yeah, it's a pair of red springs and treble A needles. You might find that's a bit rich, so you might have to come down to a pair of ABD needles and then custom modified. In my experience, it's very rare that you take needles off the shelf and they fuel properly. So again, if I was doing that and I didn't have access to a rolling road, I'd be fitting a wide band gauge in there so I knew where I was, so I wasn't running too much fuel, or indeed too little. Okay, Jeff Birch. Right, 0.8 ohm coils. Never understood your recommendation on this. In what setup should the coil be 0.8 ohm? Well, that's a good question. In my world, every car should run a 0.8 ohm coil, all right? Because a 0.8 ohm coil means that you drive more current through that coil, which means that you generate more energy, which means you generate a bigger spark. So a bigger spark basically means you can light off a lean mixture easier. So in reality, with a lean mixture, you can run efficiently, okay? So you can run it a bit leaner than would do if you was running points, for example. So in my world, every car would have, I don't care if it's a 1959 Mini, or a 1995 Last of the Carb. They'd all run a 0.8 ohm coil, and they'd all run electronic ignition with variable dwell, and they'd all run big spark plug gaps, because that's better for the engine, and that's better for the environment, and that's better for your wallet. Hopefully that helps you understand that one, Jeff. I know it's kind of brutal and sort of blank and to the and to the point, if you see what I mean, but that's the reality of it. A 3 ohm coil and points has got no place on a performance engine, or one that you want to run efficiently. You just don't have the spark power and the ability to light off leaner mixtures like you do with the more modern higher power stuff. Okay, Tony Harmer 59. That's very interesting to read the coils. Well, it's just people. Again, it's people not understanding what the basic coils are. They fitted 3 ohm, 1.5, and 0.8 to the minis, and the only reason they got lower throughout the years is more power. Okay, so more power means that you can run a leaner mixture and not have misfire problems. So that's what it's all about. Jeff, awesome, thanks. Yeah, okay, excellent. No problem. Dan Hardy, BFY BDL needle recommended by... Okay. The only difference between those new two needles is the BFY is ever so slightly leaner at part throttle. It doesn't really matter which one you try, because one will just... The BFY will come up slightly leaner. The point is... it's almost impossible to say, if you put this needle in that carb, it will do this, because of wear and tolerances and all the rest of it. So you have to put the needle in and try it using a wideband gauge, and then you'll understand what the issues are. Bodgewell, have you tinkered with my friend Duncan's twin HS2 carbs yet? And if so, how knackered were they? Is that Duncan from... I can't remember. It's Duncan Baxter. I think that was his name. Because if it is, I have tinkered with his carbs and they're already rebuilt. I just need to finish them off. Okay, so the main work's done. I just need to go through and get the settings right and make sure everything's just so. But the main work on his carbs is already complete. How knackered were they? The spindles and bushes were worn out. Well, there weren't no bushes, but the spindles and bodies were worn, so that was the main issue. He'd already gone through them and rebuilt them, so he'd fitted a lot of new parts anyway. So it was only a case of going through, cleaning them out, and then finishing the job by machining the whole, the bushes out. Sorry, the bodies out to put the bushes in, and then obviously put them all back together and give them a good clean. Tony Harmon 59. What about plugs for a 998cc, 5 or 6s? Did you watch my video on spark plugs? That'll tell you. All right. If you go around a racetrack doing track days, then put some 6s in it. If it's highly tuned, put some 6s in it. If it's a standard car that just goes to the shops, put some 5s in it. Chuck Heiser, how often do you do these live streams? Nice. Okay, so this is the first one ever. Okay, so you haven't missed anything. I just thought I'd sit here tonight and give it a go. I was not feeling it in terms of actually doing any work. I've done a lot of distributors this week and I'm getting bored. So I thought I'd sit here tonight, have a beer, and see if there's anybody out there who wants some questions answered. So I might have a look at doing these once a month. I'll keep you posted on that. Bodgewell, yeah, that's him. Okay, so yeah, just to say, the carbs are actually carb work is completed in terms of the assembly, but I've just got to go through and set them up and make sure all the dampers are doing all what they should be doing. So all the dampers have got to be balanced yet, and all the rest of it. No problem, Dan. Okay, Elliot Stringer. Hello, Elliot. All right, how's it going? Can a standard HI 44 be modified into a turbo spec? Yes. But I'll need to look at it to see which one you've got. Okay, Nick Chandler. I was looking at a John Cooper conversion kit, but unsure if it's worth it. Would cause problems later down the line. Sorry for the questions. I know you specialise in carbs, but okay, all right. I don't just specialise in carbs. I specialise in A series engines. So it's the whole thing. But anyway, to answer your question, there's no problem fitting a John Cooper conversion kit. All right. The only issue in terms of will you have problems is back in the day they was all fitted with 1.5 rockers. I've fitted many replacement camshafts. When I was at working with ML Motorsport, we had a lot of them come in where the camshafts have been taken out by the use of the rockers. Now, clearly, there's some conjecture there about, or conjecture about the oil and all the rest of it. But the main thing is, in my experience with these engines, is that 1.5 rockers don't run well with camshafts and followers over road mileages. So if I was you, by all means fit the John Cooper kit, got no problem with that at all. Just fit it with some 1.3 rockers, which you'll get a little bit more performance, but you won't get the high horsepower figures that the kit is advertised for. But what you will get is the torque and the meat of the torque right across the rev range. So in actual fact, it'll run run better at the lower rev ranges up to 4,000 revs. And then you just won't get the high peak, but you will get a definite increase over a standard engine. Hopefully that answers your question, Nick. Yeah, Bodgewell. Okay, nice. Looks a lot shinier than when we unbolted them from his car. Okay, so I'll take it you was helping him get them off. Yeah, they do look very nice. They come up well, and the linkages all work nicely. So hopefully these should work. These should work nicely. Clearly, when they're on, they'll need a tune. Okay, road only. If you've got okay, it's just road only. And is it a standard engine there, Tony? If it's a standard engine, then fit some 5s. And what I would do is, depending on how you drive it, I would just periodically check those spark plugs and see if they're overheating or not. Watch my video on that I did on spark plugs, and that will hopefully help you understand how to do that. No problem, Nick. Just I'll do what I can to help you. Dan Hardy, any thoughts on billet blocks? Surely only worth the potential price tag in a race application. Well, at the end of the day, a billet block is just another block. It's up to you what you want to spend on a block. One day we won't have any blocks, so they might be the only ones left, and they're going to be expensive. So in terms of whether you think it's worth it or not, that only you can answer that question. But a billet block for most people is out of their league. But there will come a time when there is no other option. S. Fraser, I think it's awesome you doing the live streams and videos. Really appreciate sharing your knowledge. Well, I'll do what I can, but I won't share everything. Because obviously I do, I do make money out of my information, so I will share appropriately. I also train people as well, so I can't give away all the information because people pay for that. Okay, Bodgewell there. I can definitely attest to the cam wear on a John Cooper converted cars with the 1.5 rockers. My Cooper SI engine was just come apart for a rebuild and the cam lobes had seen much better days. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I've seen loads of them. So the question is, to everybody that's out there watching at the moment, is do you want me to do more of these? Should I be doing, how often should I do them? Once a month? Once a quarter? Once a week? What would you like to see? Every couple of months. Okay, fair enough. Yep, see what other people think. Once a month, yep. Mark Turner, any recommendations on oils for road engines? Okay, so 2050 is obviously the good start, but you need something with a bit of zinc in it, ZDDP for the flat tappet engines. So any oil, I mean, you can run a 1030 or a 1040 as long as it is for classic engines, okay, and it's got to have flat tappet zinc in it. I wouldn't recommend going any thinner than that because the clearances in an A series are very large. For example, you can have 3 thou clearance on a bearing on a big end on a worn engine quite easily, and putting oil in that's 0.30 or 0.20 is just asking for trouble. Bodgewell, fortnightly or monthly seems like a sensible starting point. Okay, all right. 4/27/2005. More, please. Maybe once a month. Okay, yep. Another vote for monthly. Yeah, monthly sounds looking like what people want. Okay. I'll tell you what I'll do. People are saying about the month. There's some saying more, some saying more than that, some saying less than that. So I'll kick off. I'll try and do something once a month and see how it goes. Which engine oil do you use in your engines? Okay, I haven't had an engine, but I've not built an engine for many years, so I don't know what the latest ones are. But we used to recommend, Valvoline Racing 2050, things like that. Any of the classic oils that are designed for a flat tappet engine, 2050. You can even quite happy with a 1050 oil or a 1040 oil or a 1550 oil is fine. I have noticed that sometimes the oil pressure drops a little bit on a 1040, but the most important thing is that it has definitely it's formulated for older engines. Just so you, this one's for Bodgewell. I'll show him both the pair of carbs because you were talking about Duncan's carburetors. There you go. So I've got these out and you can see them now. All right. So they're both there, ready to go. If you have a look there, I don't know if that'll focus in, but it's had the full length bushes put in the body, so yeah, they're just waiting final finishing. Okay, 427, 2005, great, just bought some Valvoline 2050. Okay, the only thing I would say with the 2050 oil is just let the engine warm up a little bit before you go racing through the gears, all right? Because you will find on a cold morning that the gears are quite stiff, especially into second gear. So just nice and gently with the gear changes and it's all good to go. S. Fraser, Gearboxes AC, what's the advice on working out what state? Okay, strip it. There's nothing, so don't try not to not strip it. Strip the gearbox, right, and that's the only way to find out what state it's in. Okay, so henceforth, this is a good question. Could you just talk a bit about the petrol E5 and E10 for me who has no idea? I.e., can you run the new fuel in a Mini with new rubber pipes? Okay, all right, fine. So, yeah, my advice to you, the more ethanol's in the fuel, the more hygroscopic it becomes, okay? So a lot of people don't use Minis every day and they sit in sheds and garages and the fuel goes stale. So my advice to you is to run E5 fuel, okay? And if you lay that car up for any length of time, more than 30 days without using it, then use a product called Stabil in the fuel, and that'll stop the fuel going off, okay? I don't like the higher ethanol content because of the hygroscopic problem. It runs fine, so there's no problem with the way it runs on the engine. It's just you will have problems if you don't use the car. So my advice to you is stick with the E5. Now, at some point, obviously E5 will disappear and we'll be going E10, maybe even E15. So I don't know, you know, that's just my view. It's not anything I've read, but that's probably the way things will go in the future. And we'll, you know, in that case, we'll all have to be using a stabilising product like Stabil because it will just stop damaging cars. It seems to be something in the UK that people seem to be afraid of using a stabiliser. But if you want to keep your carburettor and all your connections and your pipes in good order, you need to use a stabilising product. Okay. Amids lads, hi, say I have the 52 horsepower 1275 standard Sprite engine with a HI38 carb. Is a HI44 worthwhile upgrade, or am I better off sit? Right, okay. So that is an excellent engine for bolt-on modifications. Okay, so if it's in good condition, low mileage, then you can do a lot with it. But one of the first upgrades is to change that HI38 to a HI44. So a better carb is definitely recommended. Adam Colby, have you done any testing with release pressures, RTS over, say, an Orange Preverto? No. Nice and simple, I haven't. But I've done an awful lot of setting up diaphragms to minimise the pressure, okay? So I can say that an orange diaphragm, if it's incorrectly set up, will cause an A-series to slow down when you put your foot on the clutch. One that has been correctly set up won't. And that is the same with the Verto as well on the RTS. Gearboxes, what's the advice on working out what needs to be done to understand if I have a good one? Maybe not your area. Okay. A lot of people think I don't do gearboxes. In actual fact, I did 20 years of rebuilding exclusively gearboxes for ML Motorsport and anybody that wanted one that came to me. So I've done a lot of gearboxes. Not as many as John Guest, but I've done a lot of gearboxes for trade work. Okay, so I've done hundreds and hundreds of them over my career. So I can answer this question. So you want to know what needs to be done to understand if you have a good one. Well, if it's still on the car and you can drive it, that's the best place. However, if it's not on the bench, strip it down. and then have a look at the wear and all the shafts and bearings on the inside where you can't see it. You can get some idea from looking from the outside, you know, bolt ring wear and things like that, but you can't tell the condition of all the bearings without taking it apart. Okay, Andy Taylor. Just got my 998 Flame Red running after a 2-year restoration. Pretty chuffed, although need to get you to come and to Lincolnshire and fine tune it for me. Good man. If you can't send me a message on Facebook Messenger with your postcode, and I'll be able to quote you the price to come and do that. No problem, S. Fraser. I see I've been online now for 56 minutes, so we're not doing too bad. Got 35 people on the chat. So any other questions from anybody else? Perhaps there's any questions from some of the videos that you've seen, and perhaps you need to know, you need to know a little bit more, or you don't quite understand something, then perhaps this is a good time to ask me, and hopefully I'll be able to give you an answer which helps you understand what you've seen. Okay, right. Bodgewell, good to see the carbs. Thanks for digging those out. If I end up helping Duncan to fit them and get the car running again, I'll share some pics and let you know how we get on. Yeah, that'll be really, really good. Okay, I'll look forward to that. Matt Sparks, we saw you at the Riviera run last year. It's been sat for a few months, and I'm noticing a lack of eagerness at low and medium RPM. It's on 70k. When should I be thinking about having the engine looked at? Okay, so that's a good question. So when they've been sitting for a while, it could just be fuel. So my suggestion there is put fresh fuel in it and see how it runs. If it's better, solves the problem, that's good. Failing that, if you are noticing a drop off in performance, it could be a couple of things. It could be a split advance vacuum advance unit and all that kind. So it could just be normal wear and tear. So in which case you need it looked at. I'll be at Riviera Run this year, so if it's still not right, then bring it over and we'll have a look. No problem, Andy. Or is it just a tweak that's needed? Yeah, it could be a tweak. But again, I can't tell that unless I'm looking at your engine. Henceforth, thanks for your reply. Could you just tell us some of the services you offer, like fixing carbs, etc.? Okay, so I suppose people don't realise what I'm into, but I'm tooled up for engine machine work, so I can do engine block boring, custom sizes and things like that, relinering blocks, skimming. I can also do conrod resizing via using the milling machine. Although I don't tend to do that too much because it takes a little bit longer than actually using a rod hone. But obviously flywheel clutch work, carburetors, full rebuilds, custom work, linkages, custom linkages, all that kind of stuff. Quite often take my SU carbs, which are only 1.5 miles from where I live. They know I do all the custom linkage work, and I get recommended work from them for some people as well. I also do the tuning, as everybody knows. So there's quite a lot of stuff I do, but I appreciate it's not necessarily known by everybody. Chuck Heiser, great job, mate, from the USA. Thank you very much, Chuck. Much appreciated. Matt Sparks, yeah. I'll look forward to seeing you there. Please, I won't remember you, so that's not your fault. That's me. I don't remember anybody. So just say that we had a chat online and that I did your car last year. So some cars, just to continue answering your question, some cars will run a couple of years, but it really depends on how they're used. If they're used a lot, motorway driven, done many miles, then they'll need tuning. Back in the day, tune-ups was something you did sort of every 6 months, okay? You know, and that's using the car every day. In terms of today's motoring, it's typically every year, maybe 2, depending on what's what. But the fuel going off in the tank is one of the biggest issues. So I always tell people, if I'm going to come and tune a car, or you bring it for tuning, don't bring it to me if it's got old fuel in it. Only make sure it's got fresh fuel in. Amid's lad, many thanks for answering my questions, AC. Have enjoyed watching your road tuning video. Very informative. Okay, yeah, there was one of the reasons for doing the on the road tuning was to try and get people to understand that you don't have to have a very bad running classic car. The car can run beautifully, just like a fuel injected one. But the problem is the country's lost the skill set to be able to dial them in. So there's so what I'm trying to do is to try and get mechanics who want to invest in that to be able to invest in some training so that they can actually do that. And we've started. So there's 3 in Scotland. So Scotland's well provided for. There's none in the mainland UK yet. Nobody's taken me up on the training. But I did have somebody, in fact, Darren Haynes in Colorado in the USA has taken up the training, and he's also done the distributor recurve training as well. So he's like a centre of excellence for the USA. So try and get in contact with him. He's also just setting up a YouTube channel out there as well. So look out for him. We'll see more. S. Fraser, did I see Mini Spares also listing some of your products too? Yes, so they sell my camshafts. I don't know if we'll ever get to anything else. It's just because I can't manufacture them enough, fast enough. So all my products are unfortunately typically made by me, and I've only got so many hours in the day. So they are, you know, they can be quite difficult to get hold of. So I apologise, but there's only me doing them. Yes, I could branch out and get other people to do them, but then they wouldn't be mine. So I'll just keep them exclusive. Tones Classic Mini Mods. Hi Adrian, great new series. Would you run a 1380 with a 300 cam at 12:1 compression? Yes, but not on a road car. That's a race car or competition use only. Daniel Cox. Hi AC, what sort of fuel pressure should I be aiming for on a HI44? Had some issues with float needle being overpowered. Yeah, you only want to run about 2 pound, 2.5 pounds per square inch. That's it. Okay, Tones Classic. Okay, right. Okay, this is interesting. Tones Classic Mini Mods. It's your TSR cam. Right, my TSR cam is not a 300 cam. Okay, that's basically a 286 type cam, but with just a bit more on it. So I would only be running at the most 10.75 to 1. You know, if you want to run a bit more than that, then maybe 11, but you need to be very careful. It's a shorter cam than you think. Okay, so you know, I would be, if it was my SPR cam, it would be 11.5 to 12 to 1, but not on the TSR. Chuck Heiser, and where is your man in the USA? He's in Colorado. Okay. So if you look him up, he's DH Restorations on YouTube. Send him a message. Dan Hardy, 12G 940 head on my 1310 engine. Should I change anything? Valve sizes, springs, rockers, etc. Well, Dan, you know, when you're asking that question, should you say, what do you want from the engine? Tell me what you want the engine to do. Sebak Atrico, hello from Nepal, good work. Hi. John O'Donovan, hi AC, I'm just inquiring, did you do a slick shift modification for mini gearbox linkage gear selector And can you explain it? Okay, yes, I did do. I invented that back in 1998, slick shift conversion. It kind of died a death, not because there was anything wrong with it, it's because I stopped building gearboxes. But yeah, I did do a slick shift modification, and I can still carry out the modifications for people. And it's basically modifications to the bell crank levers and the selector input shaft, which basically means that the gear change is smoother in all gears, but specifically between second and third to second, the gear lever is more of a diagonal movement rather than up, over and up. So it's much smoother to use. No problem, Daniel. S. Fraser, what fuel pump should I be looking to buy for my 1275 HS44? Thinking electric rather than mechanical, but don't know what to buy. There's no problem fitting an electric pump. In fact, it has benefits like anti-theft and things like that. Most important thing when you're fitting a pump is you must use a regulator, okay? So whatever pump you fit, you need a regulator right before the carb set to 2 to 2.5 psi, and you will have no problems. Also fit in a inline fuel filter as well. No, I'm not Irish. Ah, Pat. Haven't seen you for many years, Pat. You need to get your minis running again. Yeah, absolutely. I understand. Bodgewell, hypothetical question. Say you had a budget of 20,000. Wouldn't that be nice to build the nicest possible road going A series? Okay, well, I wouldn't spend that much. I don't like a road going A series is all about low RPM torque and lots of it. So it wouldn't be that special. It would only be around 90 horsepower. Might have a custom cam with big followers and things like that. But it would most definitely be a super smooth idling truck type engine. With a helical gearbox and high final drive. So my type of engine is all about grunt. Jason's Mini World, hello from sunny Denmark. All right, Jason, hi there. Yeah, I see, Pat. House move would definitely stop you working on your cars. Harty 1275, what's your recommendation on running in a camshaft? My good friend over at Thomas Classic Modern, if you look at his YouTube channel, he actually did a video a couple of weeks ago on breaking in a camshaft. So go and watch his video because he uses my cams and that's how he breaks them in. No problem. No problem, S. Fraser. Apparently, need to build a new garage. Yeah, unfortunately, moving houses usually comes with extra work needed, and unfortunately, building new properties or new buildings is not cheap or quick. Just while we're on the subject, which I had some carburetors up on the screen earlier. Here's one I did earlier. So this is a HIF 44 for my stock. This is when I go out on the road tuning, I carry these carburetors with me. So I usually carry HI 44 or more than that if I'm going to do a multiple day. So if I'm going to do 4 cars, I might carry 2 or 3 spares of these. HS4, HI 38, and a HS2. So I carry a good number of spares now because it's quite usual when I go for a tune-up that the carburetor is unable to run, fuel the engine properly and control the fueling. So that's destined for my stock. But I just thought I'd show you that while you're there, and I've got one handy. Okay, any more questions from anybody? I see we've got 38 people now, so it's a nice small group. I appreciate not everyone will want to ask any questions, but this is your opportunity. I'll probably stay on, well, if we get any more questions, I'll stay on till about maybe 10:30, so another 20 minutes maybe. Okay, Daniel Cox, AC, I think I might have ball wash. Oh, well, I'm sorry to hear that. That's not good. From running a stupidly rich carb before I changed it. How can I confirm this? And is there an easy fix? Or is it engine out time? Right, ball wash is never an easy fix. It's a simple fix, but it's take the engine out, strip it down, measure the damage on the bores. If it's too big, you need to rebore it and change the rings, and obviously the pistons. If it's light, if you call it in time, maybe a hone and a set of rings on the original pistons will get you through. All right. How can you confirm, test for this? What's the engine doing? Burning oil? You can tell if it's burning oil and there's blue smoke when you're driving it. And if you look down the bores and the honing marks are already taken off the bore, it's been bore washed. Good night, Pat. John O'Donovan, thanks for the answer on linkage. Maybe a video for us at home on how to do the mod. Okay. I am, if you're not selling, yeah, I am selling the mod, so you can ask me. I will do the mod now, so it's still available. Perfect, thanks. I will check tomorrow, but definitely burning oil. Well, burning oil is the sign that you've got problems. Bore wash is incredibly common. People put engines together, they have no idea on the fueling requirements for the engine, they have no idea how to set the carburetor up, they have no idea the effect of a worn carburetor, and it basically comes together as a ruined engine. So it's very, very common. Matt Sparks, would a more in-depth look into my engine, i.e. possible improvements, upgrades, etc., be something you can do at a show? If you're talking about a running engine, well, that's just a conversation. If you're talking about looking at your engine that's all in bits, and that's the best way to look at an engine if you're deciding what you want to do with it, then obviously that's best done at the workshop. Nick Chandler, do you do private work straight through you, i.e. head skimming, gearbox check and rebuilding? As I know you're busy, just for future reference. Nick, you can always ask me that. The mill's sat here for quite a few months and not really done a lot, but it's quite happy to skim cylinder heads and do that kind of stuff. The problem I've got most recently is I'm just swamped with work, so just a lot of work. So YouTube has increased the amount of custom I've got. The most important thing for you to do is basically ask me in good time. So don't just ask me when you want it next week, because that's probably going to get me to say no. But if you 2 months before you need stuff, that's when you need to be talking to me, all right? So I'll just see. I've got 14 thumbs up. Give us a few more thumbs up. Come on. You want to see more of me on live stream? You need to like, obviously subscribe, all the rest of it. Thank you. I see it's gone up to 15 already. So thank you very much. Any more questions for anybody? Tones Classic Mini and Mods. Can we have more of your great vids on engine build? Okay. Okay, that's interesting because I don't build engines anymore. So what I can do is perhaps do some videos on people bringing me engines for machining, because that's generally what happens, engines for machining. So we can maybe feature 1 or 2 of those and do some videos. But in terms of actually building them, I don't do that work anymore because I just don't have the time. What's your advice on running pistons above the deck height for a better squish? Yeah, no problem with that, but small. Yeah, 4 or 5 thou at the most. Nick Chandler, thank you. Monthly Q&A would be good. Think people wasn't expecting this and didn't know about it. No, this was purely spur of the moment on my part. So I did think when I was setting this up, I thought, well, nobody's going to know, and I get that. But I just wanted to. This is my first time, so I didn't want to show myself up to millions of people when actually there's only a few watching. So this is the way to do it. But I can do a monthly Q&A, and when I do that, I will advertise that. I will advertise that in due course. Matt Sparks, I stumbled into this. Your knowledge and experience is invaluable and rare these days. Yeah, thanks for that. And so thanks for all the sharing you do on all mediums. Always fascinating. I'll share as much as I can, but I can't share everything. All right. So I'll do what I can to help people where I can, but sometimes I have to draw a line because usually it's at the point where other people have paid a lot of money for that information. So as I say, I do training for people, so they pay for information, and they use that information to run their businesses. So I can go up to a certain point, but I can't go any further. It's been really good actually coming on here this evening, because I didn't know how many people I'd get. So thanks for obviously coming to see my live stream. I appreciate the fact that it was at short notice, but that was really that was me. I thought I can't really be bothered to do much this evening. I thought, oh, maybe I'll do a live stream. So I'll sit here with a beer and do a live stream. So I think it's gone quite well for the first one. So perhaps I will put up a date in the future with a week's notice or something like that, so people can see what it is. There's one thing it's worth mentioning. I can't always guarantee it's going to be the same time, same day every month, unfortunately, because my life is hectic and I have a lot on. So I'll just have to fit it in as and when. But as long as I tell people, so you'll know, then hopefully that you'll find that useful. Okay, so we got any other questions, or am I going to draw it to a close there? One thing before I go, one thing I did think of doing was just having a couple of live streams when I don't do any talking. You know, I'll just set the camera up and I'll just do my work. But I don't know if that's something that people will want to see, or people are interested in seeing. But you know, perhaps you can let me know. You know, in these comments. Philip Bailey, enjoyed the torch video and have done one myself. Excellent, good man. I like a torch, but I appreciate the not everybody's into torches, so you know I do the odd one. But I do that because I find it fun. You know, fun to make things, repair stuff, make things better than they were when they left the factory, that kind of thing. Yeah, 427-2005. That would be great, AC. Please do. I'm sure that's in response to the live stream stuff. Yeah. Bodgewell, I'm sure people would be interested in the watch me work style of stream. Yep. Okay. All right. Well, I'll think about how I can do that. Yeah, Jason's Miniwell, real-time videos are always good. Yeah, because you can actually see how much time I waste rather than an edited version of how something's done so quickly. Nick Chandra, I think that would be great. Nice to see all the things that you do. Yep. Okay, I'm listening. Okay, so in which case, what I'll do for this time is I'll close the live stream now, and I will look forward to doing one next month. So if that's all the questions, I'll see you later. Bye.